right, I want to call the Caldwell County Board of Commissioners meeting for August the 12th, 2024 to order. Again, I'd like to thank everyone who's in attendance in our audience this evening and those who are joining us by other means of communications at this point. But we do appreciate each one tuning in or being here. And our first order of business, we're going to ask Reverend Floyd Boston from the Central Advent Christian Church if he'd come forward and do our invocation this evening. And we'll follow that with our Pledge of Allegiance, and that'll be led by Commissioner Donnie Potter. So welcome, Pastor Boston.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I'm honored to be invited here. The scriptures tell us that the God of heaven has appointed those who lead us. They are to be honored and respected. We honor you. Thank you for your leadership. Heavenly Father, we come here this evening in the spirit of Solomon to ask for wisdom. Guide and direct our minds to do the business of this county and the business of our Heavenly Father. We thank you for those who lead us, and we pray your blessings upon them in all matters as they serve this county and all of its people. We thank you for your love and mercy. Thank you for our hope about a great future in the kingdom of God. Hear our prayers for help and wisdom, for we pray it in the name of our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Face the flag, salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor.
All right. Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, everyone. Are there any amendments to our agenda this evening?
Mr. Chairman, there's been a request to move item 10 to item 1, that is code enforcement schedule fees for animal care enforcement. Our presenter tonight has a son with a birthday, and he'd like to get home to him with your blessing.
All righty, so we'll be moving item 10 up to item 1. Any other additions?
None so far.
Because we got a long one. How many? 33
32 or
items.
3, yes.
We'll be here a little while. All right, hearing no other additions to the amendment, what's the pleasure of the board in adopting our agenda this evening?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept this evening's agenda as the county manager has presented with the move of the resolution 10 to 1.
All right, any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and that brings us to our first item of business this evening, which is going to be a resolution, an amendment to the 2024-25 Schedule of Fees for Animal Care and Enforcement. Richard Gilliland's with us.
Good evening, Commissioners, Council, Manager. I won't take much of your time. I just wanted to share this right here with you, you can pass it down. It is a digital QR code ID tag for animals. It's something that I could come across that I was able to purchase for $1.78 a piece, and we can sell them for $5 to the citizens. What it does is, if your dog is wearing this dog tag, and say I find your dog in the field, I can scan it. It tells me who the owner is, gives me the owner's phone number, and all the information about the dog that I need to know. It's created to keep the animal out of the shelter. So if a citizen was to find another citizen's dog, they can call them and say, hey, I got your dog here. You can come pick your dog up at this address. So it's a way to advertise our logo, advertise our business for the citizens, and also keep some animals out of the shelter. Any questions?
And the cost on that's going to be $5?
$5
Yeah,
a piece, yep.
so,
It's still cheaper than a regular dog tag that you go to PetSmart or something like that. The little metal ones, still cheaper than those,
Yep.
but it's still a little bit profitable.
How would somebody go about getting that tag?
Just come to our
Let's
facility.
watch it, okay.
Yep.
so they're free to, just come to the facility and
Go to the
purchase
facility
them
in
there.
person, $5 a piece, yes,
Then
sir.
you'll be taking them out to shows and all
Yep.
kind of stuff. You'll
Yep.
have them everywhere.
Yep, after tonight's meeting, as long as everything's approved, we'll post them on our social media, place them more, and advertise them for sale.
Now, while you're here, I'm gonna pick on you just a little bit.
Okay.
I'll get a little information out of you because
Okay.
I do listen to you a lot on Kicks Radio.
Yes, sir.
So what comes with an adoption fee that we provide for the animal per each adoption that we adopt out of the shelter?
So you get a spay or neuter with the animal.
Yeah.
That's done through one of our local vets here in the county, with the exception of Hudson. We do Caldwell, Lenore, and Lake Hickory. That's who does the spay or neuter for us. The microchip for the animal, so you have a microchip, so in case the animal gets lost, it can be scanned. I was gonna start giving these tags out with it, the rabies vaccine, and the first health visit by the veterinarian's office.
Yeah.
So before the spay or neuter is set up, you can take your animal to the vet, and they do a screening, per se, of the animal to make sure there's no issues with the animal.
And that's all at a minimal cost of
$75.
$75. So you
Which is,
can't beat the deal.
if you take just your animal to the vet for a microchip, you're looking to spend $40 to $50 just for a microchip.
Yeah.
Or to get one spayed or neutered is,
Or to get one spayed or neutered, it's
Several
be
hundred-
several $100 depending on
$700.
the size of the animal, yeah.
yeah.
So, and then sometimes our shelter gets to capacity and we
Yes.
will then do a half price sale.
Yes, yeah, we'll do a reduced adoption event, just to get some of them. Just to give you a quick number, won't keep you here long. Our intake numbers for this year in comparison to last year's same time frame is 61% increase in animal intake so far this year.
Yeah.
We're looking to almost double our intake numbers from last year. It's, there's a lot. There's a lot.
We are done with the old animal shelter place too.
Yes, sir.
It's turning back over to the city.
Yes.
May 30th, we turned it back
So
over.
nobody, don't go out there.
No.
Ain't gonna be nobody there if you do.
Nope. We still do have some folks that show up out there and they find our new facility and say, hey, I went to your old facility, but it's usually the older population that wasn't real familiar with social media or things like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions?
Nope. I'm picking you for the information because I think it's very proactive. We're very proactive in our animal
Yeah, you
services division, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And
you guys have done a great job.
appreciate getting the animals out for adoption, and so that's just a good thing all the way around. And I couldn't believe the deal, really, when I started thinking about it, what you can do for an adoption through our shelter. So anybody looking for an animal, go to the shelter.
We have
You
plenty.
won't beat the deal.
Puppies, kittens, full-grown dogs, full-grown cats. We have them all.
Yeah. Wide array. All right. So do I hear a motion we adopt this resolution this evening as Richard has presented?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the amendment to the 2024, 2025 schedule of fees for animal care enforcement.
All right. Any other discussion or comment?
May I interject? You had asked about maybe a change to the schedule of fees.
Is that where you want to do, you want to do that now?
I would do it here, yeah, because it would be amending this resolution.
Okay, so one of the things I had, was brought to my attention is that, and I was not aware of this, shame on me for not knowing, I guess, but a few years ago, we changed our fee on lift assist, for EMS to $150. So anytime we go out to, help somebody get up out of the floor and put them back in the chair or whatever it might be, they're getting a bill for $150. As of July the 9th, I talked to Trevor, and Trevor has stopped that fee. That fee is no longer being charged. So I want to amend the fee, making sure, because we have to be in line with what Trevor's put in place. So we need to amend the fee schedule for EMS lift assist. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And take that, scratch that 150 out of there.
So in order to do that, Mr. Chairman, you'd have to recognize him to amend his own motion
Yep.
to include that.
So are you amending your
I
own
am
motion?
amending my motion to include the lift assist fee for EMS, removing the $150 charge for lift assist
To zero.
to zero.
No.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion on that? All right, so hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of these two ordinance amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that carries. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All
Thank you.
righty.
Thanks, sir.
Enjoy the birthday party.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right, our first, next item of business, I'm gonna be off a number. Our next item of business is gonna be VIA Health Updates. And Dustin Burleson is with us this evening. So, welcome, Mr. Burleson.
Thank you. Good evening. So we have some slides up here. It's probably in your packet. So thank you for having me. Just for all of you guys to know, VIA Health is one of the 4 LME MCOs that cover the state of North Carolina. And so for Caldwell County, it is the MCO that covers Caldwell. So we're happy to be here. The biggest thing that's kind of happened probably since I've been here last is the launch of Taylor Plan. So for several years, there's been conversations of projected launch dates with the state of North Carolina, and it continued to move due to circumstances and just changes with MCOs and other things. And so on July 1st of this year, we officially launched as a state of North Carolina into Taylor Plan. And you can kind of see up on the slides really just some different information of what Taylor Plan is, but it's really a move to whole person care. So no longer are we siloing care from behavioral health or physical health or any of those things, but it's really that total care of the individual. And this is something that followed the launch of standard plans back in 2021. And so we're all happy that it's launched. So looking at the next slide here, so what is Taylor Plan? And again, you can kind of see the 4 different boxes to the right. So you've got serious mental illness, severe substance use disorder, intellectual and developmental disabilities, and traumatic brain injuries, or other known as TBI. So these are all still covered under Taylor Plan. We manage these, including physical health now. And so historically, if someone's under Medicaid Direct, then the NC Medicaid plan may be moved to a Taylor Plan. This is just a map of all the counties across the state and which MCO covers these counties. You can see VIA is the light blue. And so we take most of the western North Carolina part of the state, some in the northern central part, and then Rowan County that just kind of sits there by itself. And so, how do people know which Taylor Plan they're in? Similar to standard plan launch, letters were mailed out, so for this mid-April, to inform individuals that they qualify for Taylor Plan and which one they're in. So they're getting those letters based on which county. So for Caldwell County residents, they got one from VIA, and there's only one per county, so there's not multiple MCOs that's covering multiple counties. The kind of what's new to Taylor Plan versus the other Medicaid that you had is the providers. So a doctor or specialist must be in the Taylor Plan's network, so they must be what's called in network. A member must choose a new primary care if they're not in network, and if they don't choose one, they become auto-enrolled. So similar to standard plan back in 2021, sometimes the resident would get a letter, didn't really know what it was, throw it in the trash. Next thing they know, they're auto-enrolled in one of those standard plans, and so they had to go through and kind of figure out which one they wanted to be in. So this one is open until, you can change it up until January 31st of next year. So if someone moves from standard plan to Taylor Plan, and the standard plans are like Healthy Blue, AmeriHealth, United Health, WellCare, they would get more services in Taylor Plan than they got in standard plan. And then what stays the same, these plans basically cover everything as they did before. If you're on a wait list for intellectual and developmental disability, that does not change, but there are some perks, and these are called via Total Care perks. And so you get things like wellness perks. So that could be home delivered meals for members being discharged from a qualifying hospital, vouchers for Weight Watchers, some mobile app subscriptions, gift cards, some pregnancy perks you can see there. GED, so some educational vouchers, some safety perks, and non-medical transportation perks. And then Motive Care is our non-emergency Medicaid transportation. And I'm just going to go back. So services offered by Taylor plans. So you can see to the right of the example. So this is a lot of your enhanced services. So you've got basic outpatient that's covered through standard plans, but this is generally your really high cost, high need individuals would be managed typically in Taylor plan. So what you get is you get a VIA Total Care ID card, and it's going to have your primary care listed on that. It's also going to have your behavioral health crisis line, the member and recipient services line, the pharmacy and nurse line, and then how to schedule transportation. For that, each time you're enrolled, you get a welcome packet, which will give you additional perks. And so VIA Total Care also gets tailored care management from VIA's care managers, and they will help you do things such as arrange your medical transportation, your appointments, locating, after school care, all kinds of things like that. And then this is just the Healthy Opportunities pilot that you guys have probably heard of. This is a $650 million 5-year authorized funding from both the state and federal Medicaid to really provide us, and Caldwell is not one of these counties, but it really provides these non-medical things such as housing supports, food supports, transportation, interpersonal violence supports. But you can see what qualifies. You would have to be in VIA Total Care and have at least one qualifying physical or behavioral health condition and one qualifying social risk factor. And just to note, VIA did not pick what counties, the state picked these, and so that's kind of how they landed. So you do got McDowell, which is beside you, is in this pilot. A couple other things just to mention that's not in these slides. Our behavioral health urgent care is something that VIA got a grant for through the state, and working with RHA to get that up and running and to go live hopefully soon this year. And also working with the county on kind of upping our substance use services. And so just wanted to mention those two things as well. But wanted to see what questions you guys had.
I don't have any questions. Sorry, Donald. I don't have any questions. I just want to commend you guys for all you do and all your hard work, and thank you for investing in our county and especially in the substance use disorder area. I know that's an area we've been working on, so I appreciate all your support and
Absolutely.
everything you're doing there.
Yeah,
So,
I
thank you.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you coming tonight.
Absolutely.
All right.
I was only going to say, I noticed the pilot is for 5 years, but if some of these programs start producing results, would there be a chance for them to be implemented wider?
Yeah, I do
before
see
the
an
5 years?
expansion coming on that. So that's our hope. So I know it's got a lot of momentum right now.
Do you have any idea how long it's going to be before we get to the mental health urgent care up and running? Any idea?
The idea would be, I've heard November. So,
Pretty
you know,
optimistic.
Yep. So obviously, there's going to be some push involved in that, but I think if we could get it, before the end of the year, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let us know what we can help you with.
all right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Our next item is the Foothills Conservancy Grant System Request, Shane Prisby. Welcome, Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Really glad to be here. Appreciate a little bit of your time on a very packed agenda. So I'm going to try to keep it concise for y'all so we can save some time for questions and make sure that y'all can get home at a reasonable hour. I do have a presentation, which I believe will be loaded up soon, but I'll cover a little bit of the background. Foothills Conservancy is your local land trust. We've been working the last 30 years to conserve lands within a county region, including Caldwell. Most recently, we have conserved a property that we're very excited about. And we call that one the Johns River Headwaters property, and that is just below Wheelie's Refresher as you drive up 321. It straddles the county. It's all in Caldwell County, right on the border with Blowing Rock, and it is absolutely beautiful. I think most people recognize when they drive in, they look out, and I say, you either see everything or you see nothing, however you want to think about that. That land is now conserved, and that keeps that view shed from becoming condominiums or other development, protects the water that we all have coming into the Globe Valley and into the river system. This parcel, 326 acres, which I'll show you some photos here shortly, is absolutely beautiful. And it's something that we believe with conservation is that not just tying up the land and say, hey, this is beautiful and don't ever come here. We want people to come here. We want people to see it. It's part of our heritage, this land. The Globe Valley is absolutely gorgeous. And people should have the opportunity to see that, get out there and enjoy it. So we've started looking into trails concepts of how can we allow people to come into this property and enjoy it. It was a community effort to acquire the land in the first place, and we believe that it's a community asset, and access is a critical part of that. So what we're doing is looking for opportunities to go through a planning process to look at how best we could put trails into that. It's quite steep, as you can imagine. It drops right off at the top, and it's not much more flat at the bottom, to be honest. But that makes a really exciting experience for users. The contour and the terrain and the way we can build trails nowadays with modern techniques and modern equipment provides for a really exciting opportunity. That may just be a hike only, that may be a hike and bike opportunity, which has been very popular in these areas and a big tourism draw. That will remain to be seen as we go through the process for an assessment. Also, because of the way the parcel is situated, there really isn't a lot of direct road access to it. So what we decided was the best opportunity would be from Globe Road through Forest Service property. We've had some preliminary discussions with them, obviously, that nobody has agreed to anything yet. That is part of the process that we are proposing, that the Forest Service would be partners in this, as well as City of Blowing Rock, the county, and Foothills Conservancy. That's the general concept, the idea that we're looking at, and the opportunity is that from there, we could have a parking lot, which is critical. One on trafficked road, we would have the advantage of the Forest Service also looking out on that to make sure that it is used in the way that we intend and not in ways we don't. And it was the most popular option when we received feedback from the community. That's the best legal access to the property to come up through and connect. And hey, we have a presentation now. So I'm going to jump through some of these slides for the information that we have already said, but I will highlight some of just the spectacular view of the property and what is out there. And so looking through the process, here is just a general trails concept that I put together. It is terrain derived, but it needs a lot of refinement. Essentially, that's a map. It's lines on a paper until we can get on the ground and see what it actually looks like in there. And so that was a great presentation. I'm going to keep going with it. So we're looking at a grant opportunity that came up. It is the Great Trail State Program Grant. It is brand new funding that was appropriated by the legislature, and it is not my favorite acronym to say, I'll be honest, but it is a big opportunity because they plan to disperse all $25 million this year. Intent is to show the demand for this funding in hopes that the legislature would continue to put funding into it in frequent years. So it's a brand new grant. They're putting all the money out there. It is a bit Wild West, to be honest, but it's an exciting opportunity. So for planning grants such as this one, which we're proposing, it's $100,000 minimum, which requires a 2-to-1 match based off of the county tier system. So the match would be $50,000. And what we're proposing is that that would be split between Caldwell County, City of Blowing Rock, and Foothills Conservancy. What we're requesting is that both Caldwell County and the City of Blowing Rock contribute $15,000, which could be a combination of in-kind to make sure that you're covering your overhead expenses as far as grant administration. And Foothills Conservancy would be responsible for the remaining $20,000. That makes a project of $150,000, which I'm optimistic can get us through the NEPA process, which would be a requirement. I'd like to stretch this to get us shovel-ready, so that we're ready for the next funding, and we can use the land match for the funds we raised to really go after a bigger construction grant and keep this thing moving and deliver this in a reasonable timeline instead of drawing it out for a decade. I think we can move that up using that fund. What we're also asking from the county is that you all be the primary grant sponsors. So you'll be the one applying for it. The reason being is that because this is a highly competitive grant, we're working with other communities, we're putting one ourselves. I know a series of entities that are also applying for grant funding. So we're hoping that spreading it out through different entities gives it a better shot. Whereas if we went on it alone, we figure that they're going to be balancing it against our own priorities, as opposed to this is a chance where maybe one gets picked up or both, instead of likely 1 or 0 from a single entity. Right now, what we're doing is we have been communicating with Shane Fox, City of Blowing Rock. He has been very optimistic about this project, really excited about the opportunity to kind of build on that momentum that we had from last year. We are meeting with the town council tomorrow night, where they will also vote on this. And the one thing with the grant is that it is due in September. So I will be the one doing most of the heavy lifting, being really respectful of y'all's time and particularly your staff time. The idea is that we would do a lot of the heavy lifting on the initial writing. We would work with your staff to make sure that everything is good and it's the way that we want it prior to your submission. And if it's awarded, then Foothills Conservancy would do the legwork, work with the contractors. Obviously, in partnership with you all, you would have a say in how these things go, but it cuts that responsibility off of your staff to make sure that we're not taking from that. That would be my responsibility to work with the subcontractors that we would work with and make sure that the project is done with input from the county, City of Blowing Rock, all of our partners, Forest Service, all the way through. And so with that, it would probably require a motion tonight if you are interested in this opportunity. That could be contingent upon support and match from Blowing Rock as well. That is an option. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have about this, the grant opportunity, the process, anything we do, anything at all, really. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Anybody have any questions? And
Yeah, if you are awarded the grant, or us being the writer, we are awarded the grant, what will be a timeline on the project from start to finish?
The timeline I would anticipate, particularly with NEPA review, would be up to 3 years, particularly because of the federal process. But
Yeah.
that's also the maximum grant timeline. I think they'll probably give a little bit of leeway with that. But if awarded, I would start that conversation with the Forest Service day one, trying to get through their process and kind of help push it along a little bit. But it would be something I'd be working on pretty much immediately.
NEPA's not a fun thing to go through.
It is not. Very much it is not fun.
So I guess this question is for the county manager. If we decide to do this, who with the county is going to write that grant?
So they would be the writers, but we'll be the applicant.
Okay.
Just as many times like we do with the COG or other
All right,
partner
so
agencies.
we wouldn't be actually doing the writing of it, which is good.
Correct. We'd be helping with administration.
Okay.
I would also recommend that if the commissioners decide to do this, that it be contingent upon approval at tomorrow night's meeting for the town of Blowing Rock City Council.
Yeah. If we do this, where would we pull this 15,000 from?
If it's awarded general fund, but you won't know about award till sometime next year. So it's likely would be needed in this budget. We'd do a budget amendment when that time comes. Could possibly be next budget.
Okay, so it could be that far out.
Yep.
Okay.
And I was under the impression, and I'm just trying to clarify, but we would be the lead on this, not the town of Blowing Rock.
Correct. It would have our name on it, yes. But I think you would want, because of the proximity to the town, you would want them to participate as
Oh,
well.
yeah, I think definitely
Oh, yeah.
that their participation has to be a monumental in it, because I mean, I know it's in Caldwell County, but it's way out
Amen.
for us. You gotta go around the horn to get there.
And if I'm not badly mistaken, if you stop at the overlook, this is the property straight ahead, right? The overlook on 321?
I believe so.
Well, maybe ahead and to the left,
To your
Correct.
right, actually.
to the right. Oh, yeah, back
Yeah.
towards Blowing Rock.
On this conservancy deal, will people still be able to go in there and hunt, deer hunt, and do all kinds of stuff too?
Likely not hunting, but recreation opportunities would be wildlife viewing. We tend to reserve hunting leases where we're not overlapping with recreation, mostly from a safety perspective. But we do have hunting leases on other properties that we do have.
How many acres is it again?
326.
Is it being hunted now?
Oh, I'm sure people
Yeah,
have
I'm
bear
sure.
hunters in there
Yeah.
nonstop.
Okay.
That's a big time bear hunting deal right in there.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Cause it's not too far removed from Wilson's Creek, is it? I mean, really?
That's the crow flies, maybe not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what tributary that is, but it wouldn't be far off.
Johns River.
It's the Johns River. It is connected to Forest Service land, which I believe would still be in
Well,
hunt.
Pisgah National Forest is
Well,
what it is.
you know what gets me is these bear hunters, they can't see them signs on that conservative signs on their property up in there, so. It's
Don't y'all
gonna be,
usually donate your property back to like the Forest Service?
That is correct. Quite often, we do work with partners to transfer properties. This one, we decided to keep as a preserve. We have about 10,000 acres total of land that we own and manage. That's in different things. Sometimes it is very passive management, where we do some forestry. We do allow hunting leases to partners who help maintain. Some of that is much more active, like our Oak Hill Community Park and Forest outside of Morganton and Burke County, that we're managing as a park. So we do a little bit of everything, but we do own and maintain some. A lot does get transferred to state and federal entities.
Yeah, so how much more you have in Caldwell County?
I'm not sure what the total that we have is that we own outright at the moment. And sometimes some of that acreage is easements. I know we have currently or are working on different farm easements, including and also working on preserving land in the brushies. And I think likely that would be that land would be going to Wildlife Resource Commission, which would allow hunting in that case.
Yeah.
So a little bit of everything, we try to mix it up, but we do like preserving farms. We like keeping farms working. I know that's been a bigger push for us as an organization as well.
I'm kind of like Commissioner Branch over here. I got a little concerns about the hunting stuff there, because that's a big, big thing for us here, especially in that area.
I understand, and that's particularly why places like Brushy Mountains, we're looking at Wildlife Resource Commission as an ultimate landholder, and that would allow for them to continue hunting in different areas. So that it's a priority. It's something that doesn't, we don't allow in every situation. It depends property to property, but we do work with the commission quite a lot. We were instrumental in starting the South Mountain Game Land. They've been fantastic partners, and they do continue the tradition of hunting there as well.
Have you got any experience where the hunters and the hikers are cohabitating in a piece of property, or I mean,
worked
how
for
would
the-
that work? I just don't know.
I worked for the state of Vermont for quite a number of years, and
I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Cold up there.
but one thing they do really well is that they do allow hunting and recreation on state park land. That is different from North Carolina. The nice thing about that is that it's an education thing. People know to wear blaze orange. You put a dog. You walk your dog out. Your dog's got a vest on. I've got my orange cap when I go out to properties. So it's about being safe, being seen. I think that that's something that we're looking at a lot more, particularly on Wildlife Resource Commission land as we do some of our projects in partnership with them. Is that I think that there's a lot of space for the non-hunting public who recreate alongside hunters to learn how to be a better neighbor in those situations.
returning.
Not sure, I'm not really sure you answered my question, but is there a way to allow the hunters to hunt it as well as the trails and have them both? I don't know.
I'm not sure
I'm
either
leaning
at this
towards
moment.
Probably not because of safety issues.
Safety is always a number one concern. Also, sometimes it depends on what funding we use to purchase the property. That can preclude different activities. It really depends, and I'm not part of the land acquisition team, so I can't answer those questions directly tonight, just because I don't know what encumbrances the land may have.
Well, I know that, the Forestry Service already started leasing out properties to bicycles up there, and I ain't gonna vote for nothing that's gonna take away any more hunting rights for anybody in the county. It's the way I feel about this.
Yeah, I'm kinda inclined to go along with that too, Jeff, because I know, this is gonna be in the northern end of our county, and there's a lot of hunters up there.
Yeah,
They're
they are.
already limited on what they can do in the, Pisgah National Forest and the various things that's limited up there. As you said, they started leasing out trails up
Yeah.
there. The horses are not allowed
Out
in
there
there
on the
anymore.
bicycle trails. Now, I never thought
Yeah.
I'd see that in my life, but,
Yeah.
I just can't go along. If you're gonna cut out the hunting rights, I'm all
Well,
out.
and it brings about another issue too for me, being a member of the Caldwell Fire Department. When somebody goes down in this area, I know who's gonna have to go get them.
Yeah.
And, we're gonna be inviting that now, right back to the Wilson's Creek Wild and Scenic River. Who would have ever thought when that was adopted years ago that we'd be turning away 2,000 cars
Just
in a
because
weekend.
everything sounds naturalist and good,
Yeah,
it ain't.
it all sounds really
Yeah,
good.
that's
I'm with you, but
I can say,
I'm
Mr.
just
Chairman,
not sure I'm for it.
Me neither.
So,
I can say likely we won't have anywhere near the traffic of Wilson's Creek. And one of the first things that we do is work with emergency management, EMS services, local fire departments to make sure that they're aware of it. Adopt whatever system the county currently uses to make sure that there are markers along there so people can report in if there is an emergency. And we work with them to decrease the risk of that as well
Yes,
as
sir.
improve access to it. So that is a
I
major
appreciate all
priority.
that, but it don't help me when I have to leave my family and go up there and hike in for 5 miles and bring somebody out and carry them out, all that sounds good and I appreciate it, but we're putting the burden on a bunch of volunteer firefighters to go get the person that's come from, Florida up here, and they decide to hike a trail that they had no resource or clue what they were getting on.
Yeah, nothing personal. They
Yeah.
ain't gonna call you.
No.
I understand. I worked with Burke EMS for many years
Yeah.
as a county employee.
Yeah.
So I worked
you
with them
get it, yeah.
extensively to decrease that
Yeah.
situation and make response times easier and faster for rescuers. Unfortunately, some people still think they can hike Linville Gorge in flip-flops.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We try to decrease that with education.
Yeah.
So the trailheads we have, particularly this one, I don't think the traffic would be that high. I don't think you get that many casual folks. I think it would be a lot more locals because it is a bit more off the beaten path. It's not going to be direct access to water like, say, a Wilson's Creek or those kind of areas. So the recreation would be a lot more local. People can come there and use it and really get out there and enjoy the land.
Well, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to support Commissioner Branch. I won't be able to vote to do this tonight.
I'll just go ahead and make a motion that we don't apply for this grant, because I just see it causing trouble
Yeah.
for all of us in the
And I
long run.
agree with that. We like to be proactive, but sometimes it's better just to sit and wait
Yeah.
on what's going on. And had we not been burnt on a couple
Yeah.
other occasions, it'd be different, but we've already took those burdens and burns. So, anybody else?
No, I don't feel comfortable in
Yeah.
in voting no.
So, Commissioner Branch has made a motion that we not apply for this grant and not be the lead agency. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We appreciate you coming.
Gentlemen,
Wish
I
you
really
good luck.
appreciate your
Thank you for
time.
asking.
And
Yeah.
I'm looking at opportunities in the future where we can work together. Thank
Absolutely.
you all very much and have a great night.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank
Cheers.
you. All right, next is a call for public hearing, naming of an unnamed road, Wing and Biddy Way.
Well, that's a good one.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
So I'm here on tonight behalf of Biddy Nichols, is a new property owner in Caldwell County, and she would like to have her road name. One of the reasons that she is doing this is the road range between the two houses that split her property. There's a very small gap in there. So just to alleviate emergency services in later years, because it is 11 acres that she could subdivide, we're just going to try and name it now, and just on the hopes that if she does decide to subdivide later, all the process has been done in advance. So I'm just here to call for a public hearing to vote for the name of Wing and Biddy Way at the next meeting.
All right. And this, how many residences is on this?
So it's only one currently, but it is 11 acres, and she had brought up that she does have, I believe it was 2 children or 2 people in mind, which would make 3. And at the county, if you have 4 property addresses on a street, we name it anyway. So she's just going ahead and basically getting ahead of it if she does decide to subdivide. Right now, she has no intention. It's just her one property. And I believe she's going to put a barn or some kind of other facility out there, which will be addressed just in case somebody gets hurt out there. So there'll be 2 addresses, one for the home and one for the barn in case something happens out there while they're out there.
Is this off the Helton Road in Sawmills?
I don't remember. There should be a picture of it on there.
Yeah, I've got a picture, but I don't know what the main road is out there.
1116.
I was gonna say, I didn't write down the cross street on my notes here. I'm sorry.
Well, it says on here, it says 40, one of the addresses says 4839 Helton Road, and I
Okay.
assume that's in Sawmills behind, off of 321A.
I believe so.
Is that,
Let me double check on my phone real quick.
okay.
Yeah, State Road 1116.
And Jet Drive
That
is
doesn't
another cross.
correspond to-
Pardon?
Yeah, that doesn't correspond to North Carolina. Let me look it up here.
Hilton Road right here.
Is this 11 acres right here?
Yeah. Leading in there to it.
Is that Kevin Nichols?
So I don't know if it's Kevin Nichols. The only one who came in was Biddy Nichols. But she does have a husband on the property with her.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the property. Familiar with the applicant too.
I assume there's already a roadway there.
There's a right, I actually looked at the property myself.
Yeah.
It's a right of way.
Yeah,
easement
so
through
there's
there.
a right of way right on the property line, and it should have it wrote out there. But yes, it's right in between 4039 Helton Road and
There's a 40-foot right of way there.
4945 Helton Road is the access point to get to that property behind there.
Is it graded and gravelled now? I mean, does it look like a road?
He's in the process of doing it right now.
I was gonna say, I don't think they've technically finished. I know they have cleared some trees and are starting to cut their way through the easement. They had some issues with some easements. Apparently, one of the neighbors, I believe the 4939, had purchased the property, but they were not disclosed that it had an easement, so there were some legal issues that they were dealing with that to make sure that they actually had a true easement to the property. And I do believe that they have solved that, and they do have a true easement through there, through the legal process.
To answer your question is no, he don't have a road. He's
I-
cleared to kind of cut a path through there, but he ain't got technically got a driveway or road there.
I'm gonna say, I wanna wait till they get a road in there before we name the road,
Okay.
And I would agree.
right? I mean, if we go through this naming and then they don't follow through with it, you're gonna have something named with a bunch of trees in it.
I was gonna say, the reason we're starting is because they are already clearing it to get the road. And of course, they have to wait a full month before the next meeting to have it officially in the name. So we were just trying to start the process ahead of time.
So, and I'm okay with that if at the next meeting you come and tell us that it's duly a road and the right of way's in, the gravel's down, and
Yeah, the right of way is 100% established. They just haven't actually finished graveling it. Like I said, they're cutting trees at this point.
bring us a picture back.
Is
at
the
public
property
hearing.
dispute over?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're just calling for the public hearing tonight, but then when we have that public hearing, we're gonna need some evidence that there's a road there.
I can do that.
Okay. All right. So do I hear a motion we call for the public hearing at the next meeting?
I'll make a motion, we call for public hearing at the next meeting.
To name Wing and Biddy Way. All right, any other discussion or comment? All in favor say aye. Aye. But bring us some evidence.
I will. I'll bring you some pictures.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Micah.
All right, next is resolution that we are going to be reading and adopting tonight in the recognition of our retirement of Sheriff Alan C. Jones, and it still just kills me to say that, Sheriff. I know that you got bigger things to do, want to enjoy life, and 36 years of law enforcement's about enough, I understand. You've been our sheriff a long time. So, and we have a resolution that we have drafted through the help of county staff, and appreciate them drafting this. And so I'm going to read the resolution at this point, and you can just sit there a minute, rest yourself, because we don't want you to exert standing up or anything.
What are you trying to say, you're getting old?
No, I'm not saying that at all. He can still arrest a man. So the resolution reads this way. Whereas Alan C. Jones has served the citizens of Caldwell County for 21 and a half years, serving 4 years as Major, Chief Deputy with Caldwell County Sheriff's Office before being named as Sheriff of Caldwell County, North Carolina in 2007. And whereas he began his career in public service with 14 and a half years with the City of Lenore Police Department, working his way from patrolman to sergeant to detective and lieutenant for a total of 36 years in law enforcement. And whereas Sheriff Jones is the 32nd sheriff in Caldwell County since its creation in 1841, and has the distinction of being its longest-serving sheriff, surpassing his third great-grandfather, Sheriff Robert G. Tuttle, who served for 18 non-consecutive years. And whereas Sheriff Jones is noted for instilling professionalism in law enforcement and including officer safety, training, professional development, integrity, honesty, proper equipment, and whereas he is known for creating a culture of innovation amongst his staff, leading the department as an early adopter of technology and law enforcement, including in-car cameras, mobile data terminals, body cameras, community watch programs, flock cameras, three-dimensional crime scene mapping, and helped create the first hybrid animal care enforcement department in North Carolina. And whereas Sheriff Jones led by example, obtaining a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice and a Master of Public Administration, both from Appalachian State University, completion of North Carolina's Sheriff's Leadership School from both UNC Chapel Hill and Duke University, completion of the FBI National Academy and the Southern Police Institute at the University of Louisville. And whereas throughout his career, Sheriff Jones has served on a number of committees, including 12 years on the North Carolina Sheriff's Education and Training Standards Commission, currently as Chairman and Secretary to the Executive Committee of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, member of the Training Committee and the Traumatic Incident Response Team. And whereas Sheriff Jones is a mentor to many in law enforcement and first-term sheriffs across the state, giving of his time to teach and expand the basic law enforcement programs at Appalachian State University, Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute, and Wilkes Community College, making himself available to advise and consult in all aspects of profession. And whereas Sheriff Jones gives back to his community, his faith, and is a devoted husband to his wife Kim, a loving father to his son Garrett and daughter Jillian, his advice to all, If you have a dream, never give up on it, follow your heart, and trust in the Lord. The results will come. Now, therefore, be it resolved on behalf of the citizens of Caldwell County, the Caldwell County Commissioners publicly commend Alan C. Jones for his 36 years of faithful service to the law enforcement profession and 21 and a half years of impeccable service as the 32nd Sheriff of Caldwell County. Adopted this the 12th day of August, 2024. I'll make that in the form of a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now let's clap for him. And never to deny you the opportunity to speak. The microphone is yours, Sheriff.
It really has been a true honor to serve as sheriff in Caldwell County. In the early days, I had no idea that I'd be led down this path. The good Lord's watching out for me. To even make it 36 years to where I can even stand here and talk to you about it, the way things are today, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
I want to thank everyone at the Sheriff's Office, great group of people. They're just wonderful to work with. And I still see great things coming from them. And Commissioners, you have helped me get that office some of the best equipment we've ever had. We've led a lot of state agencies and stuff that you've allowed us to get. It has really helped us a lot. And I think you can see that by some of the rest that's made and the hard work that those guys put in out there, because they do it. Now, they are a group of workers. But I wanted to thank you as well. County Manager, thank you as well. Ms. Clerk, Destin, you've been a big part of that, and I really appreciate that. Appreciate everything you've done for us. But thank you again, and God bless you.
Amen.
Happy retirement.
Happy retirement. His lovely wife Kim is here tonight too, and so we appreciate you, Kim, and all that you've had to put up with and through the years. And we know that it has been a sacrifice on your behalf and your family, and we certainly appreciate that too.
Keep him home and close for the next few weeks.
That might not be a good idea, as much as he's been gone over here.
I would, and I said this at your retirement party, but I want to tell you again, it's been a true honor to have you as our sheriff. And I said this the other night, that there's not many county commissioners and sheriffs in the state of North Carolina that can say that we've never, ever had a disagreement with you. And the reason for that is because we trusted you. We trusted your the financial side of it and the decisions you made as a sheriff. We never, ever questioned decisions you made. You've led with integrity and compassion, and for that, I thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hear, hear.
All right. Well, when we did have a retirement celebration this past week, so we don't want those watching to think that we didn't do something really nice for our sheriff, and we did. We had a lot of dignitaries that came and spoke highly of Alan, a lot of former sheriffs and current sheriffs, and so we appreciate all them. We appreciate our staff who done a lot of the cooking there, the decorations and the event there at Red Cedar Barn. So we appreciate all that went on there, and everyone that had a part in that. And so it was a great night and a great night of celebration. So, but we do appreciate you, Alan. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll move along. Next is.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, brother.
Can you get by the?
Yeah.
I will say, as he's doing that, during the reception, Sheriff Jones was presented by Destin Hall, Representative Hall, the Order of the Longleaf Pine, the highest civilian honor
Yeah.
that a citizen in North Carolina could have. And you're very well deserved.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, he's going to leave.
Keep him close,
I
Kim.
knew when he came up here to shake our hand, he was going out the door. All right. So moving along, disposal of county-owned property by private sale, our county manager, Mr. Donald Duncan.
Mr. Chairman, North Carolina General Statutes allow us under 168-266 to dispose of personal property that's valued or depreciated under the value of $30,000. This is a 2010 Dodge Charger, also lovingly known as Black Betty, with more than 140,000 miles on it. It has been totaled once and repaired, put back together, and the sheriff has drove it for the last 14 years and has not asked for a new car. This would be disposed of through private negotiated sale after a 10 days advertising notice.
All right, so all in favor of this disposal of county property in a private sale? Well, I'll make the motion. Amen. Let me start there first. I'll make a motion that we dispose of this county-owned property by private sale on a negotiated price. Any other comment or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. And that brings us next to our acceptance of a nominated sheriff's surety bond. So, Mr. Donald Duncan.
Pursuant to the general statute, we do have to accept a surety bond for the new sheriff, which will be sworn in by August 30th. This is a public bond to guarantee that if there's any lawsuits or any liens against the sheriff, that we would bond him and assure that he is a member in good standing and also has all of his records in order. And this is required by general statute, and if it's not enacted correctly, it actually can be resulting in a misdemeanor.
Yeah.
So,
So, with that, I think we've been presented that bond and everything's in order, other than our adopting it this evening. So do I hear a motion that we accept the nominated sheriff's surety bond?
I make that motion.
Any other discussion or comment?
may I add that it would then be recorded with register of deeds and then filed with the clerk of court by the county clerk.
Yeah. All right. So, any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries as well. And that brings us to a public hearing, a quasi-judicial hearing on a cell tower located at 4548 Grace Chapel Road. And we're going to turn this over to our county attorney, Mr. Destin Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we're going to open the hearing on the application for a special use permit to construct a cell tower or telecommunications tower at 4548 Grace Chapel Road, Granite Falls. The board's in possession of three people who have signed up to speak on the application: Tom Johnson, Shelley Stevens, and Michael Barkowitz. Is there anyone else here tonight who wishes to speak for or against the application? If the three of the folks who I just listed, if you will, come up to the clerk and be sworn in.
Do you affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, this your solemn affirmation?
I do.
And the record will reflect nobody else wished to speak for or against the application. We'll begin with Shelley Stevens. If you will, tell us your name, give us some information about your background, and tell the board what it needs to know about the application.
Okay, thank you very much. This should be between 3 and 5 minutes, just so you're aware. Try to keep it short and sweet. So my name is Shelley Stevens. I'm the planning director here in Caldwell County. Experience-wise, as an expert, it would be almost 10 years working for Caldwell County, over 9. And then I worked for 2 years as a planner for the Western Piedmont Council of Governments. Before that, I worked a short time in the private sector for planning. And then I also have my master's degree in urban planning and my undergraduate degree in public policy. And I think this is the applicant's PowerPoint. if we could just get the overview. It's the other one that says SUP 2024-2. And if we can't get it up right away, I can go ahead and start as well, either way.
Next one.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start, and then when they get it pulled up, I can show you some of the visuals. So this request is our first special use, or it's our second special use permit request of the year. We just had one for another cell tower. So this is for a cell tower, and the applicant is Thomas Johnson Jr., who's here tonight, and he is working on behalf of TowerCo, and they are hoping to create this tower for Verizon. And the location is at Grace Chapel Fire Department, and most of you know where that is, but that is owned by Grace Chapel Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. And the parcel is located at 4548 Grace Chapel Road in Granite Falls, a Granite Falls address, but in the unincorporated area. And yes, that's the correct PowerPoint there. And we always think about site conditions when we're looking at a request like this, and it is currently a field with a fire department adjacent Grace Chapel Road. And thank you. And it's 8 acres total. They hope to use only a 75-foot by 75-foot area, 5,625 square feet leased area, with a 50-foot by 50-foot gravel area within that would be fenced, and then the cell tower would go within that. And the zoning is RA20, residential agricultural. The elevation is 1,128.56 feet. And surrounding land uses include homes, fields, woods, solar farm, and the surrounding zoning is RA20. And cell towers are allowed by right or by special use permit in every zoning jurisdiction that we have here in the unincorporated area of the county. And just looking at this, this area, for those who aren't familiar, is in the southeastern quadrant of Caldwell County. And most people know where this is located. This is what the site looks like. And they would use a 30-foot easement to lead to the tower. And they would use the existing pavement and then add a little bit of gravel, 12 feet of gravel. And then they would also have, again, that 50 by 50 square foot area of gravel where they have their equipment, and that would have to be buffered by ordinance requirement by 2 rows of trees. And the tower itself would be 190 feet, so a little bit shorter than some of the other towers we've seen, by about 5 feet. And then they would have a 5-foot lightning rod and room for 3 additional carriers. So this would mean that obviously there could be better signal for other carriers as well. And then they would have an 8-foot fence with 3 rows of barbed wire to protect the equipment at the base of the tower. And again, just to look at the comprehensive plan's future land use map that's created based on public input, it is a low-density use, and that area does suggest low-density uses such as this. But again, they are allowed by special use permit in every zoning district that we have. And with a special use permit request, if the applicant can meet all of the requirements of the zoning ordinance and any that are added by the county commissioners, then they are supposed to be issued their special use permit, and they use their application as their evidence and any testimony they want to give tonight as evidence as well. And they did have a few items that are listed in your packet there that they still had pending that needed some edits at the time of the planning board recommendation. But they have gotten all of those in, and I reviewed them all against the ordinance requirements, and so did the county attorney. And we think that they do meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance at this time. The only one that's still pending is their maintenance and removal language within their lease. So that's a requirement, and they just didn't have the right amount of time listed for basically clearing out the tower in the event that there is a cessation of use. So that would be the only thing that's still pending, and they do have those edits made and ready to be approved. And so The planning board's recommendation is approval contingent upon receipt of completed and correct required documents. In this case, all that's left is the maintenance and removal language in the lease.
And so, Ms. Stevens, in your opinion, other than the one exception you just mentioned, does the permit meet the requirements of the ordinance for a special use permit?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Any board members have any questions for Ms. Stevens?
Ms. Stevens, have all the property owners been contacted? that-
Yes, sir.
That surround this? Any concerns from any of the property owners?
No, sir. By law, we have to send out notices to all of the adjacent property owners, and we've done that. And our planning technician, Kim, actually goes a step further and does it twice. She does it before the planning board meeting, which isn't required by law, and also before this meeting, and we have had no calls or emails.
I've had one call.
Oh, okay.
And from a adjoining, just curious about, and, they're not here tonight, so, I mean, hopefully they receive that information. The Flanders property owner, which is bordering the property and the tower is on that side of their property, is there some type of buffer, border, trees, or something like that that will be, because their house is just right there, and then you're going to have, the tower right there. Just curious. I
So they are meeting the requirements of the ordinance with the buffering around the base. So they would have 2 rows of, say, something like Leland cypress. There are the trees behind the property. I can pull out the sheet to see like which property owners we're talking about or where they're located on this map.
It's to
if you want,
the
or-
upper,
Okay.
to the north.
To the north?
Of the
To the left
tower.
of the station.
Okay.
To the left of the station, yes,
To
sir.
the
Yeah.
left. I think that the next presentation might answer this even better because he actually has visuals from different locations.
Okay.
So it probably would be visible from there. But if you'll look at his presentation, it's actually not as glaring as you might guess at
Fair enough.
first glance.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Johnson, do you have any questions for Ms. Stevens? No questions. Okay, Ms. Stevens, anything else from you?
That's all unless people have questions.
Okay, and for purpose of the record, your presentation will be put into the record as an exhibit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Johnson, if you want to come on up, the record will show that Mr. Johnson has been sworn in. You may tell the board what you want to tell them.
I will. Well, I'm Tom Johnson. I'm a lawyer with the firm of Williams Mullen at 301 Fayetteville Street, Suite 1700 in Raleigh. I've been a lawyer for 39 years, and I've been doing these towers, representing folks with towers for about 35 of those 39. So I'm here before you tonight just to go through the application. Before I do that, though, I do want to ask that the application and all of the associated materials that have been submitted to the planning department be admitted into evidence in support of a request.
Yeah, but all of that will be in the record tonight without objection from any of the board members.
Yes, sir.
Hearing none, it'll be in the record.
Thank you very much. And then Shelley was correct. We've been through all these conditions. And the only thing outstanding is we had to go back to the fire department, and their board had to approve the lease amendment, which was just a minor thing to comply with your ordinance, which wants some detail in there. I understand that the board reviewed it with its attorney this morning, but I've not heard, anything one way or the other from that. So it'll take us a day or two to get that back in signed. But that was something we did not anticipate, but have in process. So I did want to make you aware. But all the other conditions, we have worked with your county attorney and gotten those resolved. I do want to go through a brief presentation. I do have Michael Berkowitz with me. He did the impact study that's in the record. He's an appraiser out of Charlotte, and his qualifications in this study are in the record, and he basically found in looking at it that there would be no adverse financial impact on the adjoining properties. So I did want to make you aware of what Mr. Berkowitz's role is here and what he did. This tower's for Verizon. We're trying to continually improve service, primarily to have reliable wireless service for health and safety, that when you dial and you want to get emergency services, you can. But on top of that, so emergency services can use the wireless network in order to provide services to the community. In this instance, we not only that, we're located where some of your first responders are located, which is Grace Chapel Fire Department, and they benefit from this as well by getting some income from the tower being there. So that's kind of a side point of that. But this is a before and after. Left is current coverage, to the right is the anticipated coverage. The goal is to have that green in-building coverage, so you don't have to go out in your front yard to get a good signal. So as you can see with this tower, it'll go from really spotty coverage to all green in that area. And that's what we're after, and to try to connect with those adjoining towers, which you see the green from those towers, and this does a really good job filling in that hole that's there. The tower being at the height that it is will not have to be lighted, which is a good thing. It won't have to have a light on it at all. And we've got the FAA approval that was in the record that showed that. This gives you an idea of the site. This is the site survey. We're using the existing driveway for the fire department that's paved, and it goes in till we get to the back of where the asphalt is, and then we're gonna put a little bit of gravel that give a turnaround / parking area for trucks coming in and doing maintenance. And I'm saying pickup trucks or vans. I mean, it's very light trucks that'll be getting in and out of the site. So it's good when we can use existing infrastructure and an existing driveway without having to build a new one. This too is just the overall site plan. As you can see, we're going in at the back of the asphalt. And this gives you a little bit more of an upfront. You can see the asphalt there and the turnaround that's being put in there, and the gravel drive that goes to the swing gate that will be locked, and it will be surrounded by a chain link fence with barbed wire on top. And we're also, and it's this one and the next one, the landscape plan, we have 2 rows of Leland cypress going around the bottom of this as required by your ordinance. And those will be 15 feet on center. And this is just the upfront, up-close landscape plan that's in the plans that are in the record. Shelley already showed this, but this is basically a depiction of what the tower will look like, just an artistic representation. There'll be equipment cabinets that will house the equipment, basically just a lot of computers that run those antennas. There'll be fiber optic cable that'll go right all the way up to the antennas on top, which improves service and speed. In the old days, it used to be copper, and now it's been replaced by fiber. As part of your ordinance, we have to do photo simulations. This is the overall map showing the locations, the 4 locations where we did the photo simulations. This is the photo simulation, basically looking straight on at the fire department. There's an existing shorter tower already there that the fire department uses. As you see, it'll be a single pole. It has the 1 antenna array showing there. If we add any in the future, there will be other antenna arrays below that top one. This is just from another location looking back. As you can see, the trees and all provide some coverage for that. But we also have vertical structures that are there, such as power poles and power lines. And from a distance, that tower will appear really close to the height of the power pole. Here's another view. You can just barely see it above the trees. And at this location, which is the last location we did, you couldn't see it because of the trees. It was completely covered. Of course, under your ordinance, it says a special use permit. The one finding is that you make is will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing or working in the neighborhood of the proposed use. This will improve health and safety because it'll provide that access to wireless and help first responders. The second thing, it won't be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to property or public improvements in the neighborhood. Mr. Berkowitz submitted his impact study that found no adverse impact on property values in the area. And so that meets that part, in addition to the public welfare being access to wireless. And as Shelley previously testified, we met the requirements of your ordinance. We've been through that, and I really appreciate her time and effort and your county attorney's time and effort in getting through this and making sure we had all our language right, all our bonds right, our insurance right, doing the lease amendment, which is pending but will be done, and this permit will be conditioned on that getting in as it's supposed to be. And the next step will be, we'll go to building permit, our final site plan and building permit, and then go to construction. I'm happy to answer any questions. If you have questions of Mr. Berkowitz, I can just tender him to answer questions, or if you want him to come up, he can give you a brief synopsis of his education and background and his report.
I intend to let him come up as well and let you even ask him questions, or if you want him to just speak, it will be up to you.
I'll just have him speak.
Okay. Before we do that, do any board members have questions for Mr. Johnson?
I'm just a little curious, this one, about every one we do is 195 feet. Why is that, does that keep the light off of it?
Keeps the light off of it.
By going down 5 foot?
It's,
Is it
the
because
light
of the,
requirements are 199 feet. And so we have a lightning rod on there, that gets it up close to that point.
Okay.
Above that, the FAA requires it to be lighted unless you're in close proximity to an airport, and that varies.
That was the question
was-
I was gonna have. You are gonna be technically pretty close to a helipad.
Right, but we've gone through the FAA approval process. We had to get what's called an FAA 7460. The only pole that I've seen that's shorter than this, that you may see a light on, is near the airport at the North Carolina Motor Speedway, right there off of I-85. It's a shorter monopole, and it's lighted because there's an airport right there. But the FAA would have said, because of the helipad, you've got to have it lighted and other protections, but they did not.
That's a little surprising, knowing a helicopter's gonna be coming in there,
Right. Well, they're used to anything below 200. It's on the map, and so it will be on all the aeronautical maps, so they'll know it's there.
so they know it's there.
It has to be registered through the FCC and the FAA, so it's all registered, and they will know it's there.
Any other questions from board members? Okay, hearing none, to the extent I didn't make it clear earlier, Mr. Johnson's PowerPoint presentation will be part of the record as well, unless there's objection from the board. And hearing none, it will be in the
Yeah,
the
and pretty
PowerPoint.
much it was in the record anyway.
Yeah,
It was
that's right.
part of what we'd already submitted.
Yep.
All
Okay,
right, I'll have Mr. Berkowitz come up and just share his qualifications and background and his conclusion.
sure. And Mr. Johnson, if you decide you do want to ask him some questions, if he doesn't hit on what you need him to, you can come back and ask him. So, all right. Mr. Berkowitz, if you will, just tell us a little bit about your professional background and tell us your opinion on this application.
Certainly. My name is Michael Berkowitz. My address is 1100 Sundance Drive, Concord, North Carolina, and I live right near that tower you're talking about. But I've been an appraiser for over 20 years. I'm a graduate of Duke University. I've been living in North Carolina for close to 30 years. It's my home. My son's at App State. But I've enjoyed coming up to actually Caldwell County more than any other county, as I've hiked in about 65 of the 100 counties. I love this county. But that being said, my study was about the impact of a cell tower. Now, from an appraiser's perspective, there's two ways to go about that. There's a quantitative analysis and a qualitative analysis. Quantitative means you have the data, so you can isolate the impact of the tower. So in a perfect situation, you have the exact same house, and one with a view of a cell tower, one without. I provided examples of those. Unfortunately, in this area, and especially in Caldwell County, a lot of the rural counties, the data is just not adequate to do a credible quantitative analysis. But I did provide several examples. More importantly for this particular case is the fact that it's on the site of a fire station. That is one of the most common ideal places for a cell tower, because sometimes people would say, that's an external factor. There's a fire station there. There might be an engine coming out with sirens blasting in the middle of the night. Well, as they already have a tower there, the incremental increase to provide service for a wider area, that marginal increase from a qualitative standpoint does not impact the value of surrounding properties, and that's what supported my conclusion. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you for your time.
Board members, do you have any questions for Mr. Berkowitz? Mr. Johnson, do you want to ask him any additional questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And also, the record will reflect, Mr. Berkowitz was sworn in prior to giving his testimony. Anyone else who wishes to speak for or against the application? Hearing none, the evidence that was put before the board tonight, both in the application and the PowerPoints and the testimony, will now be in the record without any objection of the board, and hearing none, it will be in the record. So therefore, Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, so, having received the evidence as been presented this evening, what's the pleasure of the board in adopting this application?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the application for the new cell tower at Grace Chapel Fire Department.
All right,
And Mr. Chairman, I think the motion will also need to allow, subject to the maintenance and renewal language in the lease being corrected, as Shelley and Mr. Johnson mentioned.
Oh, yeah, as,
Add that.
yeah,
Yeah,
add
add
that to it.
add that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Do we have that statement? Do we need to read that statement, Shelley, that,
If they want to, they can pull up the planning board recommendation, but I think it would be fine just to simply state, you know, because the planning board recommended it for approval contingent upon receipt of all items being complete and correct, so something like that could work too. Because,
we'll do that.
because it's a requirement of the ordinance, so
right? And
either
the
way.
health and safety of the community is okay.
Yeah,
That's right.
Madam Clerk, you got all that?
It's on recording.
okay.
There you go.
Or I can, yeah, do you want me to come up with like a simplified statement?
No,
Pla-
it's fine.
That's fine.
I don't think you
Contingent
need
upon
to.
receipt of the lease amendments, that would work.
Okay,
There you go.
all right. So hearing all that motion and co-motion, what's the pleasure of the board in adopting this application this evening? I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And thank you. And
Thank you, gentlemen.
for bringing communications to Caldwell County. We need it down there. Yes, sir.
Start looking out in Dudley. We need it out that way.
Hudson.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Johnson, if you want to submit some written findings and conclusions to Shelley and myself, you probably have David Lackey, one of my partners' email. If you want to email some proposed findings and a conclusion to them, you can certainly do that for the board to consider. That's typically what they do. So as long as, I think the lease, of course, gets handled and the board wishes to do so, most likely at the next meeting, yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen.
you.
Thank you.
You can look on our current agenda for the last one for a guidance.
Yeah, yeah. And Mr. Johnson, I think
You can look on our current agenda for some guidance. We just had a cell tower last month, and so you can see those same findings.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
I can send examples too. That sounds
Thank you,
good.
Shelley.
All right, so Shelley's up again with another public hearing. This is for a rezoning request from R20 to general business located at 2125 Wilkesboro Boulevard. And so, Ms. Stevens, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I have a PowerPoint for that one as well. It would be the one that says RZ 2024-2.
And be looking for the next PowerPoint on Conley Springs Road.
So many.
It appears we're searching those out through email, so.
I guess I'll start giving an overview for this one as well.
It'll be fine, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am, go
yeah.
ahead.
Okay, here it is. Okay, so this is, oh, nope, that's an old one. It's 2024-2 would be the. But, okay, so this is the second rezoning request of the year, and this one is being made by Michael Hartley for James Oxygen and Supply Company, and he may be here tonight as well, so he may want to speak as well, I'm unsure. And the property owner is Hartley Family Investments, LLC. The location of the property, and we'll look at an aerial of that as well, is 2125 Wilkesboro Boulevard, so NC 18, between the city of Lenoir and the unincorporated area, like kind of close to Cedar Rock. Oops. Okay. And the zoning currently is R20 for this parcel, and they're hoping to rezone to general business tonight. And just some other relevant information. There is a small portion of the property that is in Lenore's zoning jurisdiction. So looking at this map, you see the highlighted property. The yellow is our jurisdiction there for this highlighted property. And that teal portion is in Lenore's extraterritorial jurisdiction, which is their planning and zoning jurisdiction. Therefore, he's just requesting a rezoning for the yellow area tonight. And this request, again, is for general business, and it's something that we have to consider comprehensively by state law. We can't consider a specific use that would go in general business. We have to consider all potential uses when we think about health, safety, and welfare of the request. And we do have to look at the comprehensive plan's future land use map, which is created based on public input from county citizens by state law as well. And if you look at this map and where I was describing on NC 18 between the city of Lenore and Cedar Rock there, you'll see a blue node, a blue circle that's, if you look in the legend, an industrial center node. And that is defined as an area in which the comprehensive plan recommends rezonings to general business, light industrial, or industrial, and that's where this is located. And here's what the aerial photography looks like for that area. So you can see NC 18 there and the parcel, and it's 1.58 acres. And it also is, it's just kind of an open field with some gravel, and then it has some trees in the back. And given that the comprehensive plan does align with the request, and given we had no evidence presented to us that health, safety, or welfare would be harmed by this request to rezone to general business, the planning board does recommend approval of the following consistency and reasonableness statement per GS 160D-605 A through B, followed by approval of the map amendment, which is another way of saying the rezoning. And if you do choose to deny, there is an alternate statement in your packets, or you may create your own statement for approval as well. But this would be the statement recommended by the planning board, and the reason we have these statements are because state law requires that. It talks about alignment with the comp plan and reasonableness of the request.
Okay.
Ms. Stevens, the current use is a gravel lot for storage of tractor and trailers, correct?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, he sometimes doesn't have things there, but yes.
All right, so hearing Shelley, did I declare the public hearing open?
You did not.
I'm sorry, I apologize for that. So I will declare the public hearing open at this time, and we'll accept Ms. Stevens' comments as part of the records in our public hearing, since she's went through all those. And did we have anybody else signed up to speak, either for or against this tonight?
No.
And did you say the applicant was here, Ms. Stevens?
He said he
or-
was coming. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Okay, all right. Well, good, I'm glad to see you. All right, so does anybody have any questions for Ms. Stevens? All right, hearing none, then I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I'll call the question. I guess we'll need to read this consistency statement into the reading, so I'll make a motion that the approval of this request is reasonable and in the public interest because the amendment is consistent with the county's comprehensive plan, which contains a future land use map that aligns with the request by suggesting general business zoning for this area via the industrial center node. There is no evidence that the rezoning would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood and adjacent properties, and it can promote public health, safety, and welfare by allowing a retailer or other business to provide goods or services to the public. So, having read the motion, I'll call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion carries. So thank you for that, and thank you folks for being here this evening.
Thank you for being here.
And that brings us to the next public hearing for residential RA20 to be general business classification on the Conley Springs Road. So I'll declare that public hearing open at this time. And Ms. Stevens, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. And I think they have the PowerPoint up here, so. And As noted, this is the third request of this year. We just heard the second rezoning request of the year. And in this case, the applicant is Raymond Dollar, and he's also the property owner. The location is Conley Springs Road, just south of Dry Ponds Road in southwestern Caldwell County, and the address is 2881 Conley Springs Road. The site conditions are, it's currently forested. It is in the watershed protected area, which is only significant with regard to impervious surface and how much they're allowed to build. And then the acreage is, it's 10 acres currently. It's zoned residential agricultural, and the surrounding zoning varies quite a bit. We have general business to the north and northwest, and then we have R20 low-density residential to the west and northwest, and then more RA20 to the east, southeast, and south. And then we have one industrial parcel there, the convenience site. So there is general business in this area, but something that we have to look at as opposed to what's in the area is what's recommended within our comprehensive plan. And there is a red commercial corridor node located in that area. So in the southwestern quadrant of Caldwell County there, you'll see that little red node. And that is defined in our ordinance. And in that definition, it does suggest rezoning to general business in that area. And this is what the parcel looks like from aerial. And then, since no evidence was presented to us that this would harm health, safety, or welfare, and it is in alignment with the comprehensive plan, the planning board is recommending approval of the following consistency statement, followed by approval of the map amendment.
All right, so did we have anyone else signed up to speak or here tonight to speak either for or against this general business designation? All right, don't see anyone or hear anyone, so.
Didn't we just rezone the property right beside this a while back for
Yeah.
Derek Dollar?
We did, yeah.
We did, yeah.
We're gonna rezone that whole corridor
Yeah.
down through there now.
Business come a rolling.
I think this is the piece between his
There.
daddy's house and the
Yeah.
other piece.
Yeah, it's
I think.
like right across from the
Yeah.
convenience site, close to Dollar General,
Yeah.
and, yeah, right beside that other property, you're right. Yes.
All right. Anybody else have a question? All right, so I'll close the public hearing, and you've got that consistency
You want me to
statement.
read that?
Would you please
I
read
will be
that?
more than
You
happy.
read a lot tonight.
Approval of this request is reasonable and in the public interest because of the amendment is consistent with the county's comprehensive plan, which contains a future land use map that aligns with the request by suggesting general business zoning for this area via the commercial corridor node. There is no evidence that this rezoning would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood and adjacent properties, and it can promote public health, safety, and welfare by allowing a retailer or other business to provide goods or services to the public. Motion to approve the rezoning.
All right, so hearing the motion to approve this rezoning, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries as well. So thank you again, Shelley,
Thank y'all.
for being here and all these presentations.
Thank you. I try to keep them as short as possible, but ready to answer
fine.
questions.
We're
doing great.
We're expecting a long meeting tonight because we're now to item 11 of 33, just so everyone here realizes and knows where we are in the agenda this evening at 7:37 PM. Item
Thank you.
11 of 33. So, Mr. Duncan, you're next with the capital project ordinance that we'd like to discuss for a future courthouse someday.
Yes, sir. The state has been gracious to us, and we have received a total of $16.5 million from the North Carolina General Assembly, from the state infrastructure funds, and this would bring the latest $10 million into our budget. We received that last month as the first action item, and the second action item of this capital project ordinance would allow us to spend up to $5.2 million of that on the design for the future courthouse. We've been in a long process since September of last year, meeting with various groups, including the clerk of court, the district attorney's office, our superior court judges, the bar association, and the bailiffs, as well as the sheriff's office. And we've had great input from Mr. Correll, one of our local bar members here, about how future courthouse should work. In that time, we've also purchased piece of property, and we've done some additional work showing how this may work. And I don't have my clicker, so I think somebody can just scroll for me would be great. Sorry, I didn't even think about that. But to get started, this is the current state of our courthouse. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Vice Chair LeBrose and Mr. Jimmy Harrison have been very involved in this kind of ad hoc subcommittee going over this. But as you can see, this is the current state of the building, and here's what it used to look like. Your top left-hand corner is an 1880s construction, and that building is essentially covered up by the building on the right. All of that facade on the front is completely gone, and now you have this new facade that was built in the 1920s, late 1928. It was opened up and covered all that up. So the historic nature of the building that is referenced is actually the building that you can't even see anymore. And so in order to remedy this, we would have to do quite a bit of renovation and bring the building up to current standards. And that would cost quite a bit of money and get you no additional square footage. So you're really back to where you began. So the idea came to purchase the property when it became available from the Barnhart family here on the corner. It's the former site of a Walgreens. Before that, it was a city park, and before that, it was the home of a large house, and it also housed the county library there at one time. So proposed layout, this is all proposed layout, would show a building that would be facing almost due east and toward the downtown, and have an entrance there, and then have public parking or rear and to the side and protected parking underneath. This would be the basement floor. You would have a protected sally port to offload detainees and protect them. So some of you have been through this process with us, realize now a courthouse is more like a U.S. embassy in a third world country that doesn't like us, because you have to bring in very bad people into a building and protect them from Joe citizen that enters there on a daily basis. Also, in our courts now, we have threats against members of the jury as well as officers of the court and the judges. So we have to have a secure zone to protect all that. These are all preliminary designs that we would have to finalize. This is the main floor where you would have the clerk of court's office, and you would have your two main courtrooms, your district criminal and district civil, as well as your main DA offices and your main judge's offices, as well as a secure entrance where everybody would be screened coming in and out of the building. The next floor, which would be the second floor above grade, would host the Superior Court rooms as well as our family courts. We have a lot of family courts here, and you're really not operating a courtroom. You're operating 6 courtrooms at any given day on this site, and potentially with others with the clerk's court, as well as you have now the potential for a veterans court as well as a recovery court, and those are their own courts. They have to have their own staff to run those. You also have jury assembly here and more DA's offices as well as more judges' offices. And the orange blocks in there, by the way, are where we hold detainees on the floor before they go to the courtroom. The other thing that we are encouraging is that we would add a third floor to this building, and it would be filled in later. Future commissioners and judiciary would design that for a later date, but you would have the structure there. We learned a valuable lesson when touring other courthouses. The first thing they said is, hey, we designed this building to have a third floor added to it. And the architects very politely looked at him and said, no, you didn't, because design standards change, buildings codes change. There's no way to guarantee that within 25 to 40 years from now, when you have to have this floor, that you actually can do that without extensive structural changes to the building. So we're asking now to shell in that space and go ahead and plan for that in the future, and somebody else in a future generation can handle that. These are just renderings, so this is not how it will look for sure, but this is close. Y'all have seen this. This is the main building here facing the downtown with a parking deck off to the side. And this is a view as if you're coming from Smith's Crossroads. We're also trying to design this to fit into the city's new downtown master plan, so it fits as an anchor tenant for this site. And our architect is here. They provided a lot of these lovely renderings for us. They also would encourage us to tour other facilities, but I suspect you're about to enter into a design process that'll take another 6 to 8 months before we can enter into selecting a construction manager at risk in the spring, try to get somebody on board, and then maybe be in construction less than a year from now. We'll see. And that's all I have. And I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Does anybody have any questions before we adopt this capital project ordinance, which again is just an ordinance adoption to actually proceed, I guess, moving in those steps of all the things we gotta do anyway before we
Correct.
ever get to a point of building a courthouse. So say this all out front, that it's not gonna happen anytime soon that we're gonna build, because it's just gonna take a while to get everything done, and that's the way government is. We move rather slow in government, and we'll probably have to have some studies on insect impacts and plants and, yeah, and just whatever else comes up as we move along.
You spent a year in sketch, so just as a reminder.
Yep. So,
Mr. Chair, I would also like to say that the design money and everything is already set aside from the funds that we've received from the state, so no county money is being used at this time
yeah,
to do any of these things.
yes, sir.
So all we're doing is getting ready,
Yes, sir.
basically.
And it's gonna take a while to get ready.
Yep.
We like the bride. Takes a
Well, I
while
do
to
know
get
that,
ready.
there is a sunset on this money that, the grant money we got from the state has to be spent by October 3rd of 2025. So, just let the commissioners know that.
Very well. So anybody else have any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, do I hear a motion that we adopt this capital project ordinance for the courthouse?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve this project ordinance and budget revision for the potential courthouse.
Do we need to read that into the minutes? By chance, the ordinance?
No, you
It
do
doesn't-
not. No.
Okay, all right. Because it's here, but we can adopt it. All right, any other comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries. And that brings us to a capital project ordinance for a communication center, something else we've been working on for about 3 years.
Yes, sir. One of the tasks that you guys gave me when I came on board here is to help create a communication center. This project has grown into a regional communication center. We currently have $8.5 million given to us by the state to build this facility, and they have since added another $14.5 million to this project for a total of $23 million. There are other grants that are working out there, but this facility will not only house our comm center, but take in the Lenore Police Department, as well as host the western branch of North Carolina Emergency Management, would also house a SCIF, as well as the North Carolina National Guard cybersecurity team, Office of the State Fire Marshal, Office of Department of Insurance, and North Carolina Viper. And we've made provisions that it can grow for many years to come, as well as potentially host other counties if need be. And so this will be a regional project where essentially, if there's an emergency management situation that shuts down Raleigh, we become the default emergency management host for all of the rest of Western North Carolina, all of North Carolina, and will be the main for North Carolina from Salisbury all the way to the Georgia-Tennessee line. So, and it's already in design, so what you're approving now is bringing that additional funds in that have been released from the state of North Carolina. The next big step in this project will be Mr. Jeff Caldwell, who is the ad hoc project manager for this project. We'll bring that in to us to select a construction manager at risk. We hope to have an RFP out before the end of this month and have somebody selected to you, hopefully by the October meeting.
All right. So hearing the recommendation of project ordinance for the communications center, do I hear a motion that we adopt this ordinance? Well, I'll make that motion. Because I've been involved with it a little bit, and just appreciate the opportunity to be involved with it, because I know it's something that's needed within our county. So I make a motion that we'll adopt the capital project ordinance for this communications center. And any other comment or discussion?
Just one quick question. Has there been any more conversations with other counties? recently?
Not recently, since we've got a new change in Alexander. We're gonna let them get settled in and we'll talk with them.
All right.
A good question.
All right. Mr. Cardwell's here this evening with us, but this would probably make Tim Miller and Eric Talbert pretty happy, wouldn't it?
That's a good, that's definitely a good, example from Mr. Chairman. Those
Yeah.
two people were
Very
vitally
instrumental in
business and
emergency management within the state of North Carolina. So, and they were Caldwell County homegrown, so we always want to remember them and all they did for our county. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. Next is a resolution to approve a capital outlay loan. This is our annual, usual, and customary capital outlay loan in which our finance director's here with us this evening, and Mr. Tony Helton, and he usually recommends us doing it this way. And so we go along with the man that's got the control of the money's recommendation, right? So he says we can pay for it. Here we go. Mr. Duncan.
I'd like to commend CFO, Mr. Hilton, just because we got a fantastic rate. He worked very hard negotiating 1.9% for 59 months, capital outlay loan. And this given time, I think that's absolutely fantastic.
It is.
That will help us replace much-needed items in IT, including firewalls, network switches, servers licenses, a tractor, SWAT team robot, which is so old now, if we upgrade the brain in it, it costs more than the robot itself. Night vision for our SWAT team, 8 marked patrol vehicles, 2 of those with K9 cages, by the way. And then the firewalls, Lucas machines, and RIP packs for our paramedics. And it will also remount 2 ambulances, and we'll talk about that, and an F-150 and 2 minivans that we need. Also upgrade a box that we were going to remount, which we don't have one to remount now, into a new unit, and include a power load stretcher, and then the 2 vehicles, one that we lost and one to replace the sheriff's car that we're selling through negotiated sale for a total of $1.9 million. So it's within budget, and we're excited about making this move forward.
All right. So here's the recommendation of the manager. Do I hear a motion that we approve this capital outlay loan?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the capital outlay loan as described by the county manager.
All right. Any other discussion or comment? And I'll just say again, these are all items that we basically approved through the budget process, but we do have a couple add-ons due to just things happening with some cars and some time delays of other things with the ambulances, and so that's going to be covered in our consent agenda, but we feel very confident this is the way to move forward with it and to get those things purchased in a timely manner. And of course, by now, on these remounts and ordering of these ambulances, we're still, 18 months out? 12 to 18?
Almost 2 years on the one I'm about ready to talk about.
Or 24 months, okay. All right. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries as well. So now we're into our consent agenda. Mr. Duncan.
I'd like to recognize Lieutenant DePel for his creativity. He is actually applying for a doTERRA Essential Oils grant to purchase evidence lockers in the investigation division. So I give him credit for that one. That's pretty neat. The next one is item 15, is upgrading an ambulance remount to a new unit. We have 2 remounts scheduled in the budget. We have 2 remounts that are ready to come off the road and be done over the next 6 months. And we'll probably receive those over a period of 7 to 8 months, which is a lightning fast compared to what I'm about to tell you about. We don't have another box that's ready to come off the road and also be remounted, but we do have a chassis sitting in Houston with our provider, and it's been there since May. And I was going the timeline in my head. We got a call from Freightliner in June of 2023 while I was on vacation that they would hold a spot for us that somebody had just dropped a manufacturing slot. And they told us it would be ready in February of 2024. It was delivered in May of 24. And if you approve upgrading this from a remount to a new construction box, we should receive it by August of 2025. That's 2 years.
Yeah.
on a truck. So that would add another box to the fleet that's available to be remounted. We would not gain in fleet number, but we would have another box that can be remounted in the future and save you about $150,000 in the future for somebody else that remounts that truck 8 or 10 years from there. So it's something that's much needed. That also includes the power load stretcher for that as well, which is about a $38,000 item right now, which, by the way, if you have one workman's comp claim, it more than pays for it.
Yep.
So I would ask that you approve that as well. Health Department, we have several items here. Miss Anna has received additional money for $73,000 for CDC bridge access. This is a universal grant for adults to have access to proper health care, including COVID vaccines. Also receiving another $100,000 of leftover CARES Act money back to the Health Department. There's an additional upstream grant funding for additional clinical services for the amount of $13,500. And we received an agreement for $61,000 for communicable disease pandemic recovery, which expands communicable disease protection and detection in our community. And we received another $322,000 in COVID relief funds for vaccine distribution, storage, and this is for any type of vaccine as well to our community. The next item, item 20, is the Gamewell Fire Department tax exemption application. They bought a piece of property on Playmore Beach Road with plans for future use as a satellite station. However, they did not get the paperwork in time to get their tax exemption, so they're asking the board to grant them tax exempt status on that property. And then you have item 21, the conditional use permit of 2024, number 1. This is the findings of facts for the last cell tower that was presented last month. And as you're aware, we've also had quite some success at the federal level, both in the House and the Senate budget, and this might be a first time ever in our history that we received designated legislation to study the Wilson Creek area to see what its impacts are on the ecology as well as tourism and overuse of that area. And so our lobbying team there has done a fantastic job, and we'd like to renew the contract with them for another year, helping us get that far. We didn't know what to expect, and they've moved the needle for us, so it's been very helpful, and worked very hard along with y'all to get Congressman Fox here to help push that. Item 23 is purchase order rollover from fiscal year 23-24. That's about $1.2 million. So some of the items you just approved in the new year, these are some left over from the old year that are still yet to be purchased and delivered. We have amendment to the Council on Aging bylaws. They're moving their meetings from monthly to quarterly. The EDC has asked for a building reuse grant application for a project COLA that's here in Lenore. This is a $140,000 grant with a $7,000 match from us as well as a $7,000 match from the city. The city will be the lead agent. This is a potential pharma project, and that's all I can say. If it does go through, there'll be a project to present to the board later. But because their time, they only meet every 2 months, we have to get this to them in order to get it applied for. You saw a presentation on this, I believe, at the June meeting. Is that correct? Closed session. Thank you. They did look at another piece of property in the county, and they have since settled on a piece that they can purchase rather than lease. Reappointment of the JCPC members, Ms. Courtney Covey, Janelle Brock, Beth Henshaw, Chad Lackey, Denise Fleming, and Ed Richards. These are all existing members that would like to be reappointed. Reappointment of members to the Voluntary Agricultural District, Mr. Chad Gregg, Olivia Ford, Ryan Higgs, and Stephen Watson. Also reappointment to the Regional Aging Advisory Committee, Ms. Cindy Akins, apologize. And approval of the employment agreement for the tax administrator. The tax administrator brought it to my attention that if you're a first-time tax administrator, you can only do a 2-year contract. We did a 4-year contract, so this amends that agreement to change the new one to a 4-year contract. Also, another grant from the ARC. This is the authorizing resolution and budget ordinance to go ahead and continue the work at Evergreen Industrial Park. We received $513,000 from the Appalachian Regional Commission for that project for our industrial park. And then resolutions 31 and 32 is to declare surplus property for the service weapon for retiring Mr. Adam Miner and retiring Sheriff Alan Jones. and then approval of the minutes from the July 10th meeting. And I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
All right, anybody have any questions from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I hear a motion that we approve this evening's consent agenda as has been presented?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept this evening's consent agenda as the county manager has stated.
All right, any other comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you again for being here.
Shelley.
Hey, thank y'all.